After completing the motifs, the next step is to crochet the edging for the motifs. At the same time, connect the motifs into 5 rows. Here, the edging area for each row is different, and the methods are slightly different as well. For the convenience of explanation, I will place the finished product horizontally. Then, starting from the bottom upwards, we'll call them the first row of motifs, the second row of motifs, the third row of motifs, the fourth row of motifs, the fifth row of motifs, and we will crochet the edges in order accordingly. Let's start with crocheting the edge of the first row of motifs. The first row of motifs consists of motif 3 on both ends and centered motif 2. Start from the right side motif 3 and crochet from right to left. Here, we only crochet the edge on the top side. The new stitches used here are DC2 tog and SC2 tog. Please watch me demonstrate. First, pick up motif 3. Then, grab the corresponding yarn. Make a slip knot. Next, take the last row of motif 3. With the neat texture of the double crochet facing you, then find the turning chain on the right edge of the last row. Insert the hook into the gap between it and the adjacent double crochet. Draw the loop through. Adjust slightly. Then make 3 chains. Next, crochet 1 chain interval. Crochet 1 double crochet in the same position. Work 2 chain intervals below. Skip 1 double crochet adjacent to it. That is, this one next to it. At the next stitch position, crochet 1 double crochet. Continue afterward. Skip 1 stitch respectively, following the method of 2 chains, 1 double crochet, continue crocheting. Keep working until there are 2 stitches left in this row. Upon reaching the corresponding position, continue with 2 chain intervals. Below, you need to crochet a DC2 tog and connect it with the next motif. First, pick up the gap between the 2 edge stitches of the current motif. Work an unclosed double crochet. Then pick up motif 2. Similarly, have the last row of the right side facing you, with the chain ring face down. Find the gap between the 2 edge stitches on the right side of the last row. Again, into the turning chain and the adjacent stitch. Crochet 1 unclosed double crochet. Now there should be 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over, and draw through once. Complete the DC2 tog. Here, the edges of motif 3 and motif 2 have been picked up for crocheting. At this point, these 2 motifs are connected through the DC2 tog. Continue downward on motif 2, skip 1 stitch respectively. Crochet according to the method of 2 chains, and 1 double crochet. When you encounter a chain space, crochet 1 double crochet, 3 chains, 1 double crochet. Continue crocheting with a stitch pattern symmetrical to the one on this side, that is, skip 1 stitch respectively, and crochet 2 chains and 1 double crochet. Keep going until there are 2 stitches left on this side. When you reach the corresponding position, you need to make a DC2 tog downwards, and then connect it to the next motif 2. First, pick up the gap between 2 edge stitches of motif 2, and work an unclosed double crochet. Then, take a motif 2, with its last row facing you, and the starting side down. Find the gap between 2 stitches on the right edge, and make 1 unclosed double crochet. Finally, yarn over, and pull through once. Complete the DC2 tog. Continue working as you did with the previous motif 2, until you reach the last row where there are 2 stitches left. The stitch is pretty simple, so I won't go into detail about it. After finishing, you'll need to connect the corresponding number of motif 2 below, and at the end, connect motif 3. Refer to the chart for the exact amount. Pay attention that all motifs have the right side facing you on the last row, and the chain ring should be facing down. When joining, pick up the gap between 2 edge stitches of 2 motifs. Work a DC2 tog. The stitches have all been demonstrated earlier. They are relatively simple, so I won't go into detail later. Continue crocheting the edging and making connections. When you reach the motif 3 position at the end, start by joining. Then follow the method of skipping 1 stitch, crocheting 2 chains, and 1 double crochet. Work until there are 2 stitches remaining. When you reach the corresponding position, crochet the stitch pattern that is symmetrical to the beginning. Pick up the gap between the 2 edge stitches, work 1 double crochet, and 1 chain, 1 double crochet. That completes the first row of edging. My sample has fewer motifs. Fasten off the yarn. The yarn tails can be woven into the piece later. Next, move on to the second row. At the start of the first row, pick up the chain space and insert the hook. Pay attention, the right side should face you. Then, pick up the corresponding yarn to join. After completing, start with 3 chains. Work 1 double crochet in the same space. The following crocheting method is quite simple, so I won't demonstrate it. Here, I'll use a completed sample to explain the technique. For the rest, each double crochet and 2 chain spaces will be worked evenly with double crochets. Remember, each space works 1 double crochet. At the decrease positions from the row above, insert the hook into the chain spaces on its left and right. Work a DC2 tog. For the 3 chain space, crochet the same stitch pattern as the row above. At the end of the motif, in the last chain space, work 2 double crochets. After completing the second row, continue with the third row, start with 3 chains. Then turn and start crocheting directly. Pay attention to completing the turning chain. Start crocheting from the position of the next stitch. Do not crochet into the stitch corresponding to the turning chain. The following stitches are identical to the first row. When you encounter a decrease position, work a DC2 tog in the spaces on its left and right. At other positions, skip 1 or 2 stitches. Correspondingly make double crochets and the matching number of chains. For specifics, refer to the chart. Pay attention while crocheting. Don't twist the motif. For the next 2 rows, you can finish them on your own. Do not cut the yarn after completing these rows. Next, we will work on the 4th row. I'll continue demonstrating with this sample. Pick up where the previous yarn tail left off. Make 1 chain. Turn over. Then pick up the stitches and chain spaces. Work single crochets into each stitch correspondingly. Likewise, work 1 stitch into each space. Continue crocheting this way until you reach the position right before the decrease for the first double crochet. When you get to the corresponding position, work a SC2 tog downward. First insert your hook into the adjacent chain space. Crochet an unclosed single crochet. Insert. Yarn over. Draw the yarn through. 2 loops remain on your hook. This is an unclosed single crochet. Continue by inserting into the chain space on the left side. Work 1 unclosed single crochet. Insert. Yarn over and draw through. Now there are 3 loops on the hook. Yarn over, and pull through once. The SC2 tog is now complete. Continue by picking up the double crochet and chain spaces below. Work single crochets evenly. When you encounter a chain space made of 3 chains, work 3 single crochets correspondingly. Then continue working single crochets evenly. Keep going until you reach the position of the last double crochet before the decrease. Once you've reached the corresponding position, work a SC2 tog downwards. Pick up 2 chain spaces separately and work an unclosed single crochet. 1, 2. Finally, yarn over and draw through in once. Complete the SC2 tog. From now on, always insert the hook into the chain spaces between the decreases and work corresponding SC2 tog. For the chain space made of 3 chains, work 3 single crochets. For other positions, work single crochets evenly. Crochet all the way through the remaining part. When you encounter a turning chain, at the 3rd chain, pick up 2 strands and work a single crochet. Finally, break the yarn. Everyone can weave in the ends on your own. Note, do not weave the yarn tails of the motifs yet. That's how we finish explaining row 4. At the same time, that concludes the edging for the first row of motifs. Set it aside for now. Let's move on to edging the second row of motifs. This row consists entirely of motif 1. The edging is worked in rounds. In addition to the previous stitches, we will also use the half double crochet here. Watch as I demonstrate. Start with the first round. Pick up 1 motif 1. Make sure the right side is facing you. The motif is diamond shaped. It has 2 corners that protrude more. These are the corners with 4 double crochets in 1 chain space. When placing it, position the more protruding corners horizontally on both sides. Then, pick up the corresponding color yarn. At the rounder corner on top, pick up a chain space to join the yarn. Then, make 3 chains. Chain 3 as a bridge. Work 1 double crochet in the same chain space. Then skip 1 stitch. Work 2 chains. Then work 1 double crochet. Continue working until you reach the next corner's chain space. When you reach the corresponding position, work a DC2 tog downward. At the same time, connect it to motif 1. Start by picking up the space and working an unclosed double crochet, then pick up another motif 1. For my sample, the color scheme is random, refer to the chart for specifics. Similarly, have the right side facing you. Place the more protruding corners horizontally on both sides. On one of the sides, with the protruding corner, pick up the chain space of the corner, and work an unclosed double crochet. Finally, yarn over, and pull through one side. This completes the DC2 tog and the connection. Next, continue by skipping 1 stitch. And work with a pattern of 2 chains, followed by 1 double crochet. When you reach the rounded corner space of this motif 1, work 1 double crochet, 3 chains, and another 1 double crochet. Then continue following the previous method until just before the protruding corner position. When you reach the corresponding position, work a Pt2 tog in the chain space. Connect simultaneously to the next motif 1. After completing it, continue working according to the previous method for motif 1. It's a simple way, so I won't go into detailed explanations. After finishing, proceed below following the earlier method. Continue crocheting the edging and connecting the corresponding number of motif 1. For specifics, everyone can refer to the chart. The method is relatively simple, so I won't go into detailed explanations. When you reach the last motif, before the more protruding corner position, if no connection is needed afterward, work 1 double crochet in the corner space. Then work 2 chains and 1 double crochet. Continue crocheting along the bottom side, using the same method as for the top side. When you encounter a previous joining spot, still pick the chain spaces of 2 motifs and work a Pt2 tog. The method is pretty simple, so I won't go into detailed explanations. While crocheting, mind that the motifs don't twist. Also, there are fewer motifs in my sample, so it shouldn't be used as a reference. When you reach the first motifs, more protruding corner position, work 1 double crochet in the space. Chain 2. 1 double crochet. And continue with the previous method for the rest. When you reach the starting position, slip stitch to the beginning chain. Tighten it and fasten off the yarn. That completes the first round. Now move on to the second round. Starting at the beginning chain position of the previous round, insert the hook into the chain space on the left side. Then work the same stitch as in the corresponding space of the previous round. First, pick up the corresponding color and join the yarn. After completing, continue working downward using the same method as the second row of the edging of the first row of motifs. Pick up chain spaces and double crochets, working a double crochet evenly into each stitch. When you encounter a decrease, insert the hook into the chain spaces on either side of the decrease, and work a Pt2 tog. When you come across a chain space made of 3 chains, work the same stitch as in the corresponding position of the previous round. The method is relatively simple, so I won't demonstrate it here. Please refer to the chart for details. Continue working until you reach the last motif, just before the more protruding corner, which is the chain that is not yet connected. Also, leave the previous 2 chain spaces unworked for now. My sample is now at this point. Moving downward, there are 2 more spaces left before the protruding corner hole. Next, in the adjacent space, work 1/2 double crochet, yarn over, insert the hook, yarn over and draw through. There will be 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over again, and draw through in once. 1/2 double crochet is completed. In the adjacent double crochet position, work 1 single crochet. Then follow with 3 chains as a transition. Skip the adjacent space. Pick the protruding corner space. Work 1 slip stitch. Do not tighten. Continue with 3 chains as a transition. Skip the adjacent space. Pick up and work 1 single crochet in the next double crochet. Work 1/2 double crochet in the adjacent space, yarn over, insert the hook, yarn over and draw through. Then yarn over and draw through all 3 loops on your hook. Complete the 1/2 double crochet. Continue picking up double crochet and chain positions afterward. Correspondingly work double crochets, chain, and Pt2 tog. The method is the same as the one on the above side. I won't explain it further. Please refer to the chart for details. Keep working until the starting motif. At the more protruding corner, there are 2 spaces left at the front. These 2 spaces will also be left unworked for now. When you reach the corresponding position, work the same stitch pattern as on the last motif side. First, pick the space and work 1/2 double crochet. Then, pick the adjacent double crochet position. Work 1 single crochet. Next, crochet 3 chains for transition. Skip the adjacent space. At the protruding corner space, work 1 slip stitch. Don't pull tight. Continue with 3 chains for transition. Skip 1 chain space. Work a single crochet into the next double crochet. Work 1/2 double crochet in the adjacent chain space. Work double crochets evenly into the remaining stitches. Finish at the last chain space. On the beginning chain of the previous row, work 1 corresponding stitch. After completing, slip stitch into the beginning chain. Pull tight. Don't cut the yarn. This completes the second round. Continue to the third round. Start by picking up the left chain space. Work 1 slip stitch. Bring the yarn to the chain space. The method for this round is similar to the third row of edging for the first row motif. All stitches have been demonstrated earlier. Refer to the chart for this part on your own. Keep crocheting until you reach the previous round. Before the position of the half double crochet, pay attention to this round. The decrease is worked in the gap near the decrease from the previous round. I won't demonstrate this part here. Once you reach the corresponding position, I'll demonstrate the method on this side using a sample. First, pick up the half double crochet position. Work 1 half double crochet. Then skip the adjacent single crochet. Work into the following chain space. Near the position of the single crochet, work 1 slip stitch. Don't tighten it, then carry the yarn across. After completing, pull the yarn to the next chain space. At the position near the single crochet, yarn over, draw the yarn through. Make sure not to pull the yarn too tight here. Keep the piece flat. Then make 1 chain. Skip the adjacent single crochet. Pick the position of the half double crochet behind. Work 1 half double crochet. For the rest, continue following the method on the upper side. Crochet accordingly. You can also refer to the chart. Keep crocheting until you reach just before the position of the half double crochets on this side. Similarly, I won't demonstrate this part here. When you reach the corresponding position, the method is the same as before. First, pick the half double crochet, and work 1 half double crochet. Then, pick the chain space, and work 1 slip stitch. Don't pull too tight. Next, carry the yarn across. Draw the yarn through from the next chain space. Adjust slightly. Then make 1 chain. Afterward, pick the half double crochet, and work a half double crochet. Continue with the remaining part following the previous method. After completing, slip stitch into the beginning chain. Pull tight. Don't cut the yarn. That's how you finish the third round. Next, we'll work on the fourth round. Start by making 1 chain. Then, pick the same spot and work 1 single crochet. The crocheting method from here onward is similar to the fourth row of the first row motif edging. It's relatively simple. Refer to the chart for guidance. Crochet up to just before the carrying yarn section. And I won't demonstrate this part either. When you reach the corresponding position, pick down into the chain space of the second round. And work 2 single crochets. Also, weave in the yarn tail from the carrying yarn. After completing, slip stitch into the adjacent braid. Work one single crochet. Also, wrap the carrying yarn. Then continue picking up adjacent chain spaces. Crochet 2 single crochets. Move down to the half double crochet position. Continue following the chart as you go, or crochet using the method on the upper side. Keep going all the way to the other side. In front of the carrying yarn section. And I won't demonstrate this part either. When you reach the corresponding position, use the same method. Pick up the chain spaces of round 2, crochet 2 single crochets. Here you also need to wrap the carrying yarn. Then pick up the braid formed by the slip stitch. Crochet 1 single crochet. After completing, pick up the adjacent chain space. Crochet 2 single crochets. Continue working single crochets evenly for the rest. After completion, slip stitch onto the first single crochet. Pull tight. Fasten off the yarn at the end. Weave the yarn tail inside the piece. That completes the 4th round. At the same time, the edging for the second row of motifs has been explained. Next, continue crocheting the edging for the 3rd to 5th rows of motifs, and connect the corresponding motifs. The 4th row is identical to the 2nd row. The 5th row is identical to the 1st row. The 3rd row involves crocheting the edging on both the upper and lower sides. The method for each side is the same as the 1st row, it just starts with motif 2. Pay attention to making sure the starting chain faces outward. This method has been demonstrated before. It's relatively simple, so I won't demonstrate it here. Refer to the chart, and complete the edging for the remaining 3 rows of motifs on your own. Up to this point, the explanation of the motif edging is complete. Once the edging is completed, the next step is sewing. I will follow the same order from bottom to top. Starting by sewing the edging of the first row of motifs to the edging on the bottom side of the second row of motifs. I will continue to demonstrate this using a small sample. Here, I will use the whip stitch method for sewing. First, pick up the corresponding yarn, and take a 1 meter length of thread. Then thread the needle. Next, take the first row of motifs, with the side that doesn't have the edging facing down, and the right side facing you. Then pick up the second row of motifs, aligning its wrong side with the wrong side of the first row. Now locate the right side, and find the edge stitch of the edging on the first row of motifs. Insert the needle into the back loop of this stitch. It should look like this, with one strand of yarn. Then locate the second row of motifs. And find the third row of edging below it. Identify the single crochet above the half double crochet. Insert the needle through the topmost half loop. At this point, the sewing needle will pick up 2 strands of yarn. Proceed with sewing them together. Start by leaving a little yarn tail. For security, sew through the same spot one more time. Continue downward. Pick up the back loop of the front piece. For the back piece, pick up the topmost half stitch of the corresponding stitch. Sew them together. Here, you can place the reserved yarn tail on top. Weave it as you sew. Continue downward. Pick both the back loops and the topmost half stitches. Sew together correspondingly. While you're sewing, if you encounter a spot where you previously made a slip stitch, there will be a small knot. For the stitch next to the knot, pick up the back loop, or insert the needle into the topmost half stitch to sew it together. When sewing to the first row of motifs, when there are just a few stitches left before the SC2 tog position, you need to check the remaining number of stitches here. The decrease here should correspond to the centered stitch. From the 3 single crochets in the chain space of the other side of the piece. At this point, you can count the number of stitches from the yarn tail position to the centered stitch and see how many stitches remain. Check if it matches the number of stitches left before the decrease. If the stitch count matches, then continue sewing them together correspondingly. If there's a discrepancy, you need to make an adjustment. Here, I'll demonstrate the method for adjusting. You can pick up from the side with more stitches and match it to the side with fewer stitches, sewing twice in that area. Like this, one stitch has been adjusted. This is the method for adjusting the stitch count. After adjusting until both sides have a matching stitch count, continue sewing them together correspondingly. The decrease positions on one side. Should all correspond to the center stitch of the 3 single crochets on the other side. Every time you're about to sew to a corresponding position, remember to check the stitch count and make adjustments. This will prevent the stitch count from not matching later on, which could cause the piece to be sewn crooked. Moving forward, follow this method to finish sewing the first row of motifs. If you run out of yarn while sewing, or if the yarn starts to split severely, you can join a new yarn. I'll demonstrate the method with a small sample. First, take the yarn to the wrong side. And sew a few stitches nearby. Then, pick up a new strand about 1 meter long. And near the piece, tie a knot. Continue sewing afterward. Leave the remaining yarn tails for now. First, take the yarn to the previous stitch position. Then continue sewing by matching the corresponding stitch positions. Sew until the last stitch. Here it corresponds to the placement of the single crochet above the half double crochet in the second row of motifs. To ensure it's secure, the last stitch is also sewn twice. Sew one more time at this position. After completing, weave the yarn tail on the wrong side. You can weave in a few more stitches for extra security. For the rest of the yarn tails, follow the same method, and weave them inside the piece. Pay attention to the third motif on the right side of the first row, and the second centered motif. Leave their yarn tails for now. For the motifs on the left edge, you can weave the yarn tails inside the piece. This way, one side of the first and second rows is sewn together. If the piece doesn't lay flat after connecting, it's a normal occurrence. The sewing method is the same for the following rows. Here, I'll explain using a sample. Sew the motifs on the top side of the second row, to the bottom side of the motifs on the third row. For the second row, start from the edging at the single crochets above the half double crochets in the third round. Continue sewing all the way to the other end, stopping at the single crochets above the half double crochets. The sewing position for the motifs in the fourth row is the same. For the third and fifth rows, just sew from one edge to the other edge. Pay attention, do not weave the reserved yarn for the motifs in the fifth row yet. The sewing technique is relatively simple. I won't repeat the demonstration here. Continue with the remaining rows on your own. After completing, you'll notice that the motifs in the first and fifth rows are separated at the corners. You'll need to sew them together using the reserved yarn. Below, I'll demonstrate the method with a sample. Take the yarn tail on the inner side of the motif, insert the yarn needle, then target the stitch at the corner's edge of the adjacent motif. Sew a few stitches to secure it in place. There's no strict requirement for the sewing method, as long as it's secure. The edge is a beginning chain. Pick up the third stitch. Pick up 2 strands of the yarn. Insert and sew together. After completing, weave the yarn inside the piece. Make sure to weave the yarn securely. You can weave a few more stitches if needed. Then, following the same method, sew and secure the corners between the 2 rows of motifs. The technique is quite simple, so I will not repeat the demonstration. For the remaining corners that haven't been sewn, just weave the sewing yarn inside the piece. That concludes the explanation of the sewing part. The sewing is now complete. Next, we will work on the outer edging. I will explain it in 3 sections. Start by following the outer edge, and crochet in rounds for section 1, after completing it, at the shorter sides. Crochet section 2 separately, so there are 2 parts of section 2. Finally, follow these 2 sections, and crochet in rounds for section 3. No new stitches are used here. Please watch as I demonstrate. First, we will crochet the first round. Here, I'm demonstrating with a small sample. After sewing is completed, the piece will form a rectangle. It has 2 long sides and 2 short sides. Start by finding one of the short sides. Place it facing upwards. Pay attention to ensure the right side is facing you. Then, locate the right side, the starting point for motif 3 from the edge. Insert the hook into the starting chain ring. Join the yarn. Then make 1 chain. In the same hole, work 1 single crochet. Next, crochet 3 chains as an interval. Work 1 single crochet in this hole again. Consider the 2 single crochets and 3 chains worked in the chain ring as one corner of this round. Continue by crocheting 3 chains as an interval. Then pick up motif 3 and the edging area. Select the edge of the row of double crochets. Work 1 single crochet for each corresponding position in the row. Add 3 chains between the single crochets. Skip the edges of the following rows of single crochets. Move down to select the sewing position. Pick up the centered 2 to 3 strands of yarn. Crochet 1 single crochet. Continue with 3 chains as an interval. Move down and pick from the adjacent 5 single crochets. The second and fourth stitches. Work single crochets at the corresponding positions. Add 3 chains as intervals between the single crochets. Then pick up 2 to 3 strands of yarn from the adjacent sewing position. Crochet 1 single crochet. Chain 3. Next, work on the edging and motif 2. Pick up each edge of the rows of double crochets. Work 1 single crochet for each corresponding row. Add 3 chains as intervals between the single crochets. Work 1 single crochet into the chain ring at the corresponding position. Continue downward. Correspondingly work single crochets and 3 chains. Move on to the sewing point. Work 1 single crochet at the corresponding spot. Add 3 chains as intervals. Pick up the second and fourth stitches from the 5 single crochets. Work single crochets at the corresponding positions. Crochet 3 chains as intervals between them. After completing, work 1 single crochet at the sewing point. 3 chains as intervals. Below, you'll find motif 3 on this end and its edging. Pick up the double crochet row at the edge and correspondingly work single crochets, with 3 chains as intervals in between. When you reach the chain ring at the edge, work 1 corner at the corresponding spot. That is, 1 single crochet, then 3 chains, followed by 1 single crochet. By now, you've completed this short side and these 2 corners. Next, crochet along the long side. Pick up the edges of the double crochet rows from the motifs. Work 1 single crochet for each row correspondingly, with a 3-chain interval in between. Also work single crochets into the chain rings at the edges. Follow this process to complete the entire long side. After finishing, you'll reach the edges chain ring. Work 1 corner correspondingly. Then move to the short side position. Refer to the method used for the first short side while crocheting. For the long side, follow the same technique as this long edge. At the corner hole on the edge, crochet 1 corner correspondingly. The method is quite simple, so I won't go into detailed explanations. Continue crocheting downward. Finish the last long side. Slip stitch into the first single crochet of the corner. Pull tight. That's how you complete the first round. Now let's move on to the second round. Start with 1 chain. Then pick up the chain space on the left side. Correspondingly make 2 single crochets. This completes the corner position. For the remaining sides, pick up the chain spaces individually, and crochet 3 single crochets into one space. Crochet 2 single crochets into next space. Alternate like this. For the next corner position, follow the corresponding method for the sides. It will naturally be 2 single crochets in each space. The edges are crocheted alternately with 3 stitches and 2 stitches. The method is simple. I won't demonstrate it further. After finishing, slip stitch on the first single crochet, pull tight, and you're done. Everyone can finish this round on your own. That concludes the explanation for the second round. Now move on to the third round. Pick up the adjacent single crochet from the left. Work 1 slip stitch. Bring the yarn over. Then make 3 beginning chains. Follow with 2 chains as an interval. Crochet 1 double crochet in the same position. Consider these 2 double crochets and 2 centered chains as one corner of this round. For the rest of this round, at the edge positions, pick up the stitches respectively. Work double crochets correspondingly into each stitch. There are 2 single crochets at the corner positions. Crochet the corner of this round on the second single crochet. Work 1 double crochet on the first single crochet. You can refer to the chart for specifics. The method is quite simple. I'll skip the demonstration. When you reach the end, don't forget on the single crochet next to the beginning chain, insert and work a double crochet into the single crochet. Finally, slip stitch into the beginning chain, then pull tight. Complete this round on your own. This concludes the explanation for round 3. After completing, move on to round 4. Start by picking up the chain spaces on the left. Work 1 slip stitch to carry the yarn along. Then crochet the corner identical to the previous round. After completing, skip 1 stitch respectively. Alternate crocheting with 2 chains and 1 double crochet. At the end of each side, work directly into the double crochet position of the corner from the previous round. After finishing the side, crochet the corner directly in the chain space. You can refer specifically to the chart. The method is simple and the same as before, so I won't demonstrate here. When you reach the end of the round, don't forget to work on the top of the beginning chain. Also, work 1 stitch into the position where the slip stitch was inserted. Finally, at the beginning chain for this round, make a slip stitch and pull tight. You can now complete this round on your own. That concludes the explanation for the 4th round. At the same time, section 1 is also completed. Next, we will crochet section 2. There are 2 parts. Let's start with the first one. It will be worked back and forth. Here, I'll demonstrate the technique using this small sample. Continue crocheting from the yarn tail of section 1. First, pick up the chain space on the left. Work 1 slip stitch to carry the yarn along. Then, make 3 beginning chains. Next, continue to the left. Pick up the double crochets and chain spaces. Work a double crochet into each stitch in sequence. Keep crocheting until you reach the chain space at the next corner. Finish crocheting the chain space at the corner. Here, you only need to work 1 double crochet. This completes the first row of section 2. Now let's move on to the second row. Start with 3 beginning chains. Turn over. Then skip 1 stitch. Follow the method of 2 chains and 1 double crochet, alternating as you go. Note that the beginning chain corresponds to the double crochet below. You also need to skip it. So, at the start, it's like skipping 2 stitches. Then, from the position of the next stitch, begin crocheting according to the method. When you reach the beginning chain from the previous row, work 1 double crochet in the corresponding position. This completes the second row. At this point, the first section 2 is done. It's time to fasten off the yarn. Continue crocheting the second section 2. The method is the same as for the first one. Make sure the right side of the piece is facing you. Then, locate the other short side section. Join the yarn in the chain space at the right corner. For convenience while watching, I'll demonstrate using a different color. Start with 3 chains. Then, crochet the corresponding stitches moving to the left. Keep going until you reach the chain space at the next corner. After completing, turn and crochet the second row. The stitch pattern is relatively simple. I won't demonstrate it here. Please complete the second section 2 on your own. Do not cut the yarn after finishing. Next, move on to crocheting section 3. Join the yarn at the end of section 2. Start with 3 chains. Turn. Make sure the right side of the piece is facing you. Then pick up the adjacent space on the left side. Crochet 1 double crochet. Next, pick up the double crochets and chain spaces. Work a double crochet into each stitch in sequence. When you reach the space at the edge of section 2, pick up the space and crochet 2 double crochets. Two chains. 2 double crochets. Consider this part as one corner of this round. Afterward, pick up the edge of the next adjacent row of double crochets. Correspondingly make 2 double crochets. Then pick up the chain space. This is the space from section 1. Work 1 double crochet. Continue picking up the double crochets and chain spaces. Work a double crochet into each stitch in sequence. Pay attention when you reach the beginning chain position of section 1. Correspondingly work 1 double crochet. Work 1 double crochet into the chain space. Next is the edge of the row of double crochets. Work 2 double crochets for each stitch in the row. The last chain space of section 2. Correspondingly make 1 corner. After completing, continue picking up the double crochet and chain positions. Work a double crochet into each stitch in sequence. Moving forward, correspondingly crochet 1 corner into the chain spaces along the edge of section 2. When you encounter a row of double crochets, work 2 double crochets in the row. For the remaining positions, work a double crochet into each stitch correspondingly. Repeat this process. Finish crocheting the remaining part. When you reach the starting space, pick up the large space and work 2 double crochets. Chain 2. This completes the corner. Finally, join with a slip stitch at the top of the beginning chain. Do not pull too tight. Fasten off. Enlarge the loop on the hook. Leave a long tail. Break the yarn. Then find the second stitch from the left side. Insert your hook from behind. Pull the reserved yarn to the back. Then insert your hook into the braid of the slip stitch. That is, the braid below the yarn. Pick up the front loop above. Insert. Pull the yarn through. Adjust slightly. Finally, weave in the ends. I won't demonstrate this part here. That concludes the explanation for section 3. At the same time, the edging round has been fully explained. The piece may not be perfectly flat at this point. You can press it from the wrong side. Lastly, make and attach the embellishments. It consists of a drawstring and a brooch. The brooch is pre-made. So start by making the drawstring. Use 2 strands of yarn here for crocheting. That means combining 2 strands into 1 strand to crochet. A skein has 2 ends. One on the outside, and one from the center of the skein. Pull out both ends separately. Alternatively, you can use 2 separate skeins directly, then combine the yarn ends. Wrap the yarn around your left hand. Next, start with a slip knot and crochet chains. As you crochet, match it to the short side of the shawl. That is, while crocheting. Compare the size. Make it slightly longer than the short side. You'll need to tie a knot. You can also refer to the chart for the exact length. After completing, fasten off the yarn. Pull a large loop directly. Leave a little yarn tail and cut it off. Pull tight. The length of my sample is not for reference. Finally, use the hook to weave the yarn tail inside. You can weave in more stitches if you like. Weave the other yarn tail inside using the same method. I will not repeat the demonstration. That's how you make a drawstring. Follow the same method to make another drawstring of the same length. I'll skip the demonstration for that. Finally, attach the drawstring. I'll demonstrate the method using my small sample. Locate one of the short sides. The chain spaces along the edge of section 2. Insert from front to back. Then exit 2 spaces apart. Insert again after skipping 2 more spaces. Continue following this pattern, alternate inserting the drawstring from front to back. When you're a certain distance away from finishing, count the number of holes remaining. Ensure that the drawstring exits at the last hole. You can then adjust the spacing of the remaining spaces as needed. Once done, attach wooden beads to both ends of the drawstring. Use scissors to smooth out the beads hole first if needed. Then insert the drawstring through the bead. If it's difficult, use a hook to help. Then tie a knot at this end. This will secure the wooden bead in place. Use the same method to insert a wooden bead, and tie a knot on the other end. I won't demonstrate that part. With this, the drawstring is now attached. Follow the same method to attach a drawstring on the other short side as well. Once completed, again at both ends, insert the wooden beads. It's a simple process. I will not repeat the demonstration. If you want to attach a brooch, attach it to your preferred corresponding position. Make sure the side with the beads faces forward. That's how you attach the brooch. With this, the explanation for the accessory is complete. Up to this point, the entire process of making the shawl has been fully explained. If you have any questions during the process, don't hesitate to reach us via our website, Susan's Family, supporting your handwork experience, sharing the joy of life. Thank you all for watching. See you in the next episode.